Hey guys, on today's episode, we're working on this beautiful, incredibly rare 993 Porsche. As you can see, it's obviously yellow. This is one of 937 ever made. Now, the interesting thing about this, besides it being a Porsche yellow and a C4S, it has an original 1,100 miles. So what is it doing here? It's been in the collection for quite some time, and we need to polish it up because there are a few little marks here and there because there's been a cover on it. Definitely a little bit grimy. Wheels need some love, and there's a few scratches here and there, but really excited to work on something this rare. That and a whole lot more on this episode of Drive and Protect. Although this is not a disaster by any means, it does need some love. The reason it's really here is because it's so virgin, meaning it's so perfect, the owner wants to keep it as close to untouched as possible, making it more of a challenge from a detailing perspective to clean it while touching it the least amount necessary. 993s, and especially the 4S in a 6-speed manual, are super coveted these days. It has a 3.6 liter air-cooled flat six, 282 horsepower, 250 torque, 0 to 60 in 5.2, and a top speed of 168. Now, in today's terms, yeah, it doesn't have 750 horsepower, but short of the turbo, back then, this was the car to have. This particular model has all the extra bells and whistles, from the racing-style sportback seats, the stainless steel exhaust, the factory turbo-style wide body, which looks amazing, the factory Ram induction, motor sound package, large turbo brakes, and all of this wrapped in a car that has 1,100 miles. It's totally insane. Step one is to get my gloves on, then I find the soaps and set up my foam gun. Then I add 2 clean towels to my wash bucket with AMMO foam squirted on top, AMMO Brute wheel soap in the wheel bucket before filling them both up. After a healthy rinse, always test your foam gun as you hook it up to the power washer, because every once in a while, maybe one out of every 1,000 times you put it on, you're thinking of something else. You can pull the trigger and that foam gun will go flying across the room. I don't have any footage of that, thank God, but I like to turn it to the side, spray it, make sure everything is functioning before I go put it on the car. God forbid that comes off and hits the car. That would just be awful. With the paint soaking, I focused on the 18-inch Sport Classic wheels and was encouraged to not lift nor remove the wheels if they weren't in desperate need of that level of work, which makes sense. With 1,000 miles, they're not that dirty, so I just needed to do a healthy wash. I also substituted degreaser instead of using wheel cleaner. Again, there wasn't a ton of brake dust everywhere, and there was a little bit of grease, and working in the wheel wells, that kind of thing, degreaser is a better option. Next, I gently agitated the paint with a very clean microfiber towel. Now, the towel itself is barely touching the paint. It's more like surfing or gliding on the lubrication and just barely tickling the stuck-on contamination underneath. This isn't a full-down scrub or any of that kind of thing. So just barely move it around and you're good to go. Now, one of the cool things about doing a car like this is it's so special. It only has 1,000 miles on it. The flip side is it doesn't have a whole lot of abuse or a lot of use. So you kind of have to change your process. In this process of normal detailing, you take things apart, you do lots of work. A little bit different with this one, more of a preservation sort of mindset. In this case, underneath, normally I would pick the car up and look at it. I actually got underneath real quick on my shoulder here on my back and look at it. It's perfectly clean, it's flat bottom. Why go underneath there and do all that stuff, potentially cause any issues? Take the wheels off. I think the upside of taking the wheels off is you could probably get in the back side of the rim a little bit better, but these are huge. I can get my hands in there, no sweat. Normally I would take a little brush and get in and brush everything. Why would I do that on a car like this? It hasn't been driven. It's literally just been sitting for years and years and years. Think of it like a Da Vinci. I'm gonna mess this up, but basically Da Vinci says simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, right? What can we take away from the process instead of add to it? But in cars like this, the very special ones, minimize what you're doing because you actually do a whole lot more for the car by doing less. After the rinse, I picked out a new microfiber towel, got it wet, and then wrung it out in the sink, and then dried the paint. If you have compressed air, use it for the seams and the tight spots as well. Just make sure you put some hearing protection on and some eye protection if you have it. Okay, at this point, the car is cleaned. The irony is it was already pretty clean, but it had a bunch of dust and some grime here and there. We've now removed all that just to be safe. I didn't go overboard with the washing or the wiping. Now, onto that point, what you can see here is very challenging to see. It's sort of like trying to capture on camera swirls on white paint. It's very, very hard to do. This is yellow paint, kind of in the same hue, if you will. It's really hard to see. But if you look at it, certainly with my eyes, you can see here something that is super common that's called love marks, meaning this car clearly sat in storage. I'm sure it was exposed somewhere in a garage or whatever, and the owner would come over and kind of do one of these, put some spray wax on it, and just kind of love on it, meaning love marks all the time. So the easy way to get that out is I am using yellow pad, yellow polish, super simple. A few extra passes, meaning I can probably get it out a little bit quicker with compound, but I don't want to do that. We're in this preservation mode. So I just want to remove the very light love marks, and I don't want to remove any paint. Again, if this gets measured and somebody comes in and wants to buy it or does a auction or whatever, I want all of this to be very, very consistent. Again, the least amount I can do. I wish there was dead animals in here. I wish there was a huge scratch and all these horrible things so I could make a super compelling video, but sometimes this is just real life. This is an amazing vehicle, and the goal is just to barely touch it, clean it up, protect it, and get it on its way. After polishing the paint, there tends to be polishing pad residue left over, and it's easier to just simply power wash and then gently dry the seams with a towel and compressed air to avoid missing any residue. Now, if you're comparing doing, let's say, spray wax in a towel and trying to get in there and spend all the time there versus just re-power washing the paint, it sounds like power washing is going to be a lot longer, but if you compare one to the other in terms of its safety on the paint, it's just better and easier just to power wash and go through the steps of re-drying the car again. Once everything was looking good, I then chose to use AMMO Skin instead of Reflex Pro as the primary layer of protection, and here's why. I wanted the new owner, as this car is up for sale, to have the option to apply a coating or to not apply a coating in the future. Some classic car owners, especially one that is as virgin as this, meaning there's only 1,100 miles, this car is trading on the fact that it's so virgin, may opt for a more, let's say, natural shine that comes from carnauba or, let's say, sealant, in this case, skin, and they can easily remove or apply it or do whatever it is that they want to do. If I put a coating on there, that lasts much longer and it sort of limits what that new owner could do. And because I don't know that new owner, I want to make sure that that option is still on the table. Likewise, on the wheels, I added skin, as I've done for many, many years in the past before the all-new Wheel Gelée Pro coating came out. It's quick, it's easy application, and the same concept as before. If they want to remove it, no problem, and put a more permanent coating on, easy to do. And by the way, when I say permanent, I mean really longer lasting. When I put a coating on, you can always get a coating off. It's just more of a pain in the butt to get it off if you do want it to remove it. So I'm trying to make things easy for the potential new owner. Inside, I lightly wipe the leather with lather and a microfiber towel to remove the layer of dust before adding mousse leather conditioner to the seats to keep them soft and supple and to add a bit of that new car scent back to the interior. Finally, a quick vacuum before cleaning the windows with Obey and a squeegee, then adding mud to the rubber, which added a ton of pop to the wheels on the car. I started freaking out when I was doing this particular part of the video. It was unbelievable. It all just started to come together when that tire dressing went on. It was just amazing. Oh my gosh, that looks so beautiful to me. The bugger. Well, guys, we're done, and this thing looks really good. Super excited. Now, the interesting thing about doing a car like this is it's not obviously similar to doing something like the Le Mans back here. We have so much work, there's dead animals, there's mold, etc. This was relatively clean. It still had some love marks on it, but the challenge becomes doing less to something in this sort of preservation mode. And here's my random example. You know me, I have analogies. It's sort of like when you go to write something, it's easier to write 10 pages about it than 2 sentences about it. So in this case, this was the 2 sentences. It was just a lot more thought that had to go in because I want to make everything that I do count. For instance, I didn't lift the car up. Why? I don't want to take the risk of lifting something that may have never been lifted up before. I didn't want to take the wheels off. Why do that? They're perfectly clean. I put a towel in there after we cleaned it and not anything. There was no dirt whatsoever, which is unheard of. Polishing was pretty easy. We used a yellow pad and I went between compound and polish. And then lastly, instead of putting Reflex Pro on here, I put skin, which was a decision I made so that I could allow the future owner to make that decision himself, meaning if he wants something permanent on it, we can put something permanent on it. But this gives a lot of protection, has a much softer, much richer sort of original looking and feel, that kind of thing, to skin. And I haven't used it in a while on a car. I just love that product. So, of course, guys, if you are interested in this car, speedsporttuning.net. If you have any questions for me, you know where to find me. AMMONYC.com. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Putting an extra 100 feet on a very rare car. And the radio's on. Radio works. Okay, here we go. E-brake on, car in gear.